Welcome. This is Sienna Lea, inceptor of Rise Multiversity, and I am here with Lynn Williams. Lynn has got an extensive background as an empath and a clairvoyant, claircognizant since she was a child. She utilized these gifts to build several businesses from scratch and to help her become a top senior management recruiter in the corporate world for 25 years. As she was able to accurately assess whether a candidate was the right person for the job based on the unseen parts of the personality. After her profound spiritual awakening by ET visitation in 2010, whereby all of her other psychic gifts of feeling, seeing, and hearing into the other realms were opened, Lynn decided to dedicate her life and work to assisting others in their own spiritual awakening, emotional healing, and shadow work, teaching them how to remove etheric interferences that hinder them and inspire them to live healthier, more fulfilled lives. Lynn can activate awakenings within people with her words and download messages for her clients directly from source. She also works with people, pets, and horses as a telepathic energy healer. Her ability to connect with and feel the emotions of people and animals, combined with her healing hands and voice, has helped numerous people and animals heal from various physical and emotional trauma. Additionally, Lynn has coached and guided a variety of clients with finding the right career, job transition, work-life balance, attaining optimal health, and creating better relationships. She has spent thousands of hours studying and or experiencing a multiple of subjects, metaphysical, spiritual, ascension, UFO, and ET related. I am so honored to have Lynn as one of Rise Multiversity's newest mentors, about to offer some material through Rise, because I think that the work that she's doing is spot on. She's teaching people how to perform a function that's impacting their lives negatively. She's into solution, and her solutions are to help us build our own sovereign capability of handling some very nasty agendas and manipulations that are impacting all of humanity. And we're going to dive into this in depth today in a very coherent, clear, step-by-step fashion, so that when you're done here, you're going to really receive a packet of information that could be life-altering. Welcome, Lynn.
Hi, Sienna. How are you today?
I'm fantastic. It's a beautiful sunny day in Ecuador, and I am delighted to be able to hold space for your understandings to reach humanity, because I think that you have got it going on.
Oh, thank you.
So, Lynn, by the way, let's just let people know what the title is of this show today. It's Understanding How Technology Interfaces with the Human Body to Lock Down the Co-Creative Powers of Humanity. Wow, that's a mouthful, Lynn. Can you describe the technology agenda that is impacting humanity now and how it interfaces with the human body and the etheric implants?
Absolutely. Well, I discovered these connections in part through the work that I do through my spiritual coaching on various subjects, as well as the etheric implant removal techniques that I teach people every day. And I started to see some real connections between the bigger picture of what they call the smart electrical grid. Some people call it the killer grid, which includes a variety of different technologies, and how that interfaces with things like vaccines and radiation from Fukushima and nanotechnology that's now in chemtrails and food and GMOs and EMF and all of it, and how it wove together to really put a relative frequency fence around all of humanity, to compromise their immune systems, to compromise their mental capabilities, but most of all, to compromise their ability to connect through their spiritual gifts to Source, Mother Earth, and to each other. And when I started to see this theme take hold, I really felt, with your help, Sienna, as we were brainstorming one day, compelled to really talk about this subject today. And not from a framework of fear, just a framework of let's diagnose what the issues are. Let's see how they're affecting us as humanity. And then let's talk about solutions, because I always come at things from a solution orientation whenever possible.
Well, that's beautiful, Lynn, because there's so much about now the space fence. There's some good researchers I know. There's a number of shows that are just dedicated to breaking down all these facets of this and how they're interrelated and how this is all functioning together. But they kind of leave us high and dry because it's, again, talking heads talking at us about some of the most horrific imposition, compromising our health, our sanity, our well-being, and fundamental ability to relate, our ability to live. And yet, what can we really do? And this is why I love having you on the show, Lynn, because you are solution-oriented and you've been helping hundreds, if not thousands of people actually address this issue, I believe.
Yes, and in different ways. When I started my coaching practice, I was focusing on a variety of topics around relationship. As a health coach, I personally haven't been to a doctor in 6 years, and I'm perfectly healthy. And I found that using more organic methods of health attainment really increased my life in significant ways. Everything I coached about, like we talked about earlier, jobs and career transition, how people may be able to get out of the matrix and move into a role that really is their spiritual destiny. And so I came at it from a lot of different angles, just gathering information. It was really when I got into teaching implant removal, etheric implant removal with clients, that I really started to see how it all came together. Because I was seeing technologies that people like Harold Klaus-Vella, the black goo, for example, he was talking about as being in our 3D domain, and yet I'm seeing that inside people's bodies on the etheric level, or the nanotechnology, that sort of thing. And as I said to you earlier before we started recording this show, that I'm even finding now, two of my male clients literally had an etheric womb that they had put into their bodies. And these men found these wombs on their own. And this is something that's a recent phenomena that's just now starting to happen. And that would feed into that whole transgender, transhumanism agenda that they have on this planet to emasculate the men and defeminize the women, and to come up with a sort of race of human that is unisex, and has taken us completely away from our organic blueprint of how male and females are supposed to interact with one another. So of course, this piqued my interest. Well, then this makes sense that when I look up in the skies, I see chemtrails raining us down with nanotech, because I see it in people's etheric bodies. Or this makes sense why they have the smart grid, electrical grid around major cities, because that interferes with the technologies that's in their etheric level, is interacting actually with that smart grid. As is this
about that a little bit long. Excuse me.
Yeah, sure.
Cut you off there, but for perhaps the people that are listening for the first time here, can you break down some of the specifics and how these are actually these nanobots? Now, I've understood that these are at a molecular level, and that they are in the chemtrails and they're in some of the food supply. How are those actually operating inside of us with the smart grid?
Well, first of all, let me talk about this smart grid and what that's really comprised of, because nanotechnology is only, really one, it's actually a separate facet from the smart grid. So when we look at the electrical grid, we're looking at things like strategic defense initiatives. Everyone will probably remember Reagan's Star Wars program. Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot of wars going up in the heavens right now. Those that study the sun and other planetary structures are seeing literally these wars going on in the cosmos. So we've got the strategic defense initiatives, which also from a frequency, remember everything is frequency and we're electromagnetic beings. What they're doing up there is going to affect who we are down here. There's no separation. And so we've got that. We've got scalar weapons. For example, Tesla was instrumental in bringing forth the whole scalar technology, which could have been used for good. Well, they've locked it down and used it to power weapons. The Gwen towers, which a lot of people are starting to see in their cities. These are the tall towers with these big, long vertical panels on them.
Mm-hmm.
And they were brought forth under the guise that we need them for cell phone coverage, but we need only a fraction of what they're putting out for cell phone coverage and other technology running our computers and phones and such. The reason that they're there is because they interface with our electrical magnetic fields, and not in a good way. Never mind, they can do voice to skull messaging so that people may start having thoughts that aren't their own, which sort of leads, in my opinion, to what they were kind of announcing with that whole zombie meme. Is it's not that you're going to have face-eating zombies, but that people will be sort of out of their minds because this technology will come in and mess with their ability to think coherently.
Okay. And now is there a piece of this that's tied to big pharma? Because a lot of these drugs, the mind drugs, the focus drugs, the ADD drugs, the emotional stability drugs, seem to put people in a frequency that makes them much more receptive to receiving those directives and to operating from those agendas being programmed in artificially. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. You have to understand, well, I know you do, Sienna, but the audience needs to understand that these technologies are not being developed necessarily by mankind. These are alien technologies that our dark government is utilizing, that are many, many years beyond where they're telling us technology is. We're talking 30 or 50 years beyond it or more. And so they now have technologies that they can put into things like vaccines, and also the nanotechnology that they're using that's raining down from the chemtrails or in our food supply. The nanotech is separate than the GMOs, for example, the genetically modified organisms. A lot of this knowledge came from its extraterrestrial knowledge. And as our governments have interfaced with these dark beings, they've gained this knowledge for their agenda. And so, yes, absolutely. I think that most pharmaceuticals that people are taking today are steeped in some sort of a program. And the whole reason they're pushing these drugs is because they want people on that program.
There seems to be a across the board similarity that all of these impositions have to do with keeping people in a minefield, disconnected from their hearts, from their bodies, from their humanity, and gaining some sort of addictive resonance with this disembodied artificial matrix that becomes in some way a drug and a diversion, because it seems to be trance-like. It seems to numb people out so that they don't have to feel their pain. And at the same time, it's posing as life, but it's not. Does that make any sense? This whole artificial construct is they're taking everything away from us that's organic, innate, and humane, and then delivering this artificial grid and getting us addicted to wanting more and more and more of something that's actually entraining us further and further away from our own ability to embody our own souls.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the entire agenda. That's why, and I'm not a fan of Alex Jones, but that's why he calls this show the Prison Planet. I mean, we are in a prison planet, and there are, people talk about a frequency net around this planet at more an outside toward the cosmic level. But we've got inner frequency fences too, like what I've just described, with HARP and NexRad and chemtrails and particle beams, electromagnetic radiation, plasma. All of these are weapons, in a sense, that are used by our dark governments in order to enslave us further, because it knocks out the capabilities of the electromagnetic body and our natural co-creator gifts of being able to connect not only to source and to Mother Earth and to each other, but it also knocks out our sixth senses, those gifts that those of us in the awakened community are trying to open up as we reach higher levels of consciousness. So like clairsentience, clairaudience, clairvoyance, all of those unseen gifts that are actually, those are natural capabilities every single one of us should have open. So what they're doing is then locking us down so that they can basically use us only as a power source. They use our co-creative abilities for their own directives, since we become so numbed out that we can't use those abilities for our personal directives. At least that's what they hope. And that's when people talk about those people that haven't fully awakened yet to who they really are and what their capabilities are. Those people have no idea that they even have these gifts available to them. They've never heard of such a thing. Obviously, those of us in the awakened community know about it. And for us, it's a constant struggle to keep ourselves in a high vibrational space and healthy so that we can keep accessing those gifts.
Wow. So how did you come to these conclusions and learn about this agenda yourself?
Like I said a little earlier, it was just I guess connecting the dots through the work that I've done for years between my spiritual coaching, as well as really the implant and entity removal. And what I saw was that these entities were using technology as a conduit. I literally have recordings of reptilians and grays coming in over the Skype line while I'm working with my clients, particularly the Skype line, more so than the phone. And my clients have heard this too. And I have numerous recordings of this. And so I started to realize, oh, isn't that interesting that Skype is a conduit, almost like an open highway, for these beings to come in. And the truth be told, the ETs that woke me, who I believe are positive, they also came in through Skype. That's the first time I heard them. They came in over a Skype line. So then I started to wonder, well, what about other interference I sometimes get on my cell phone or on my portable phone in my landline in my house? And I started to just intuitively connect the dots that there was something bigger going on here. And then I just started to test it out. And what my testing showed as I worked with more and more clients was indeed, all of this was interfacing with these technologies and the etheric, the entities we find, the AI technology, the black goo, that the more that a person simplified their life and got away from the technology, the less these entities in the etheric were able to mess with them.
So then there is a correlation between alien interference, or demonic possession, entity possession. There's many layers of this vampiric, the archons, the ETs. There are many theories, many ideas. But what you're saying is that it's no mistake that all of this technology is exponentially growing at this time, and that we look at it, or we're supposed to be looking as a great boon to help humanity, but really it is the interfacing software for their vampirization of our unowned energies. Is that right?
That is an incredibly articulate and beautiful way to say it. Absolutely, Sienna. And if you look at the effects of the human body, first of all, we know that these indigo children, and I use that as the broad range for crystal children, rainbow children, these new children are coming in. And they've got heightened DNA. They're very conscious. The newest children coming in now are fully telepathic, which is one of the reasons they don't speak in the early years. They don't need to. They can read their parents' minds. Many of them are telekinetic. they can bilocate. And so what the dark side, if you will, is doing is it needs to lock that down. And the only way you can lock that down, in their opinion, is to interface the technology with the organic structure. Because the organic structure, when we're out in nature and we're connecting with Mother Earth, we're putting our bare feet on the ground, we're touching her, and when we quiet the mind and get away from technology and be able to connect with Source, we raise our consciousness and we become impervious to their ability to do much to us. And they know that. So one of the reasons that they're really targeting the young children right now with all of this technology, video games and Pokemon Go and all of that, is they need to capture that audience. They're the threat. These new children coming in are really going to change things up. You know, I'm an old Blu-ray indigo. You know, my time has passed in terms of the path cutting I was here to do. These new kids coming in are really here to shift things. And so if they can lock them down with technology, they can't access their organic structure, which is why we're seeing, in my opinion, the ADHD, the autism. You know, these children are highly sensitive. And when you bombard them with technology and GMOs and, you know, all the things that we talked about earlier, the HARP, the chemtrails, it completely overwhelms their delicate and sensitive immune systems and body chemistry. And their
Ritalin and the Adderall are totally changing the neuroreceptor configuration, so, and cutting off connection to Source and organic life, and making the brain really vibrate towards all this artificial noise that's coming in at us, I believe.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And so why are they ramping it up now all of a sudden? Well, in my opinion, because we're at the shift point that's been prophesized by so many groups of indigenous peoples. And so there's a certain level of consciousness that's just organically raising on this planet due to the time that we're in. And then you combine that with more and more beings coming in on and taking, you know, human bodies that are very, very high level positive beings. And the dark side is saying, oh my gosh, we better throw everything at them or we're in trouble. And they know they're in trouble. We are, you know, I believe we are going to win this war, but we are in a spiritual war right now. And for those of us that are listening to this program and understand what I'm saying, you can see it around you daily.
Yes. And it appears that the people that are really going for truth are under a high level attack, and even demonized, and even social norms are actually condemning and making look suspicious and weird and creepy and go after them. And those guys aren't sexy or attractive. The men of truth, the women of truth, the ones that are really optimizing this opportunity as we go through the great shift and birthing the new human, the Anthropos 11, that John Lash describes, and others in his Gnostic interpretations of what's occurring, that there is a new human being born, and I'm witnessing this directly, and this new truth is like a blowtorch. It's just blasting through all the lies and all the levels, and people are getting polarized. It seems the people that are under this mind control are seeing the people who are emerging as truth as a horrible threat and a great tragedy to their lives. And
well, and this is, if I can interrupt for a second and intercede, that, you know, that, Sienna, is also another layer to this. Above the technology is now, have you noticed how much warring there is going on between various light worker groups? And that is all by design. It's a divide and conquer approach. Okay, if we can't lock them down with all our technologies, that's not getting us the result we hope for. You know, then let's get them all fighting with each other so they take each other out. I mean, what better way to take out a powerful co-creator than to have them fight with another powerful co-creator? So yeah, that's a definite agenda that's happening, and we're seeing that played out all over.
And the thing that one of the many things I appreciate in my collaboration with you and the other mentors in Rise is that we are taking the steps to create a supportive, live, interactive group community building setting for the people who are awakening and know what the truth is, and they're under such isolation, often physical pain or poverty, attack, just unbelievable. And they're waking up through it in this dazzling way. They're just so many heroes. And as we come together, and then we hone the tools to start breaking this imposition on us. We start breaking free, and we support each other in our. Everyone, of course, has to do this themselves. I'm not trying to create a bunch of codependent little community of handholders like we can't do. We have to do it ourselves. But in terms of holding that frequency, I think that it's so important to roll up our sleeves and learn these tools, practice these tools, and support each other in breaking this thing together. Because it's a field, isn't it? It's a field. It's an artificial field. It's an anti-life field. As we come together in love and mutual support and unconditional love of ourselves and one another, we're up frequency. That's running a protection around our field, it seems. However, unless we can really remove some of this software or implants, this place of where one folds into the other, it gets so convoluted, because even the best of us can turn into proper shitheads. Excuse my bad language. Sometimes it's the only thing that gets the point across. As great and aware and awake as I can be, and others, I know so many extraordinary evolutionary geniuses and truth, and everybody can be compromised in the parts of us that we don't see and we don't understand, and particularly where we just can't even imagine this is happening, which brings us back to your expertise in this etheric implant removal. I think it's so important that we understand this invisible level of imposition. No one in the mainstream mind control would even dream this is happening to us. And that's why they've been getting away with it just scot-free, haven't they? I've had a session with you, and the Soul Sisters Rising group has had sessions with you. And these things are, I was absolutely shocked at the amount of crap that was inlaid into me. It was what, a 2 or 3 hour session just pulling this stuff out. It was massive. And yet so I think the great thing is if you can even entertain the notion that this is a possibility, and then you can look at moving some of this out. Now, I found with your thing that I felt tons lighter. I felt like there was more space in me. Suddenly the joy for life returned. It was like I was removed from hell back to heaven. And I know that sounds silly, and maybe this sounds like a silly ad and a promotion, but I could care less about any of that. I'm saying the truth. It was absolutely astounding, the change after that 3 hour session with you. And it lasted, and it does last, for days on end. And the other women experienced the same thing. So I'm pretty, I know we love to be researchers and we love to learn and study and read. But for me, direct experience is really the best testimony of whether this is for real or not. And so anyway, I'm rambling a bit.
Well, thank you so much for that explanation of your personal experience, because this is not a technology that I invented or I even learned. This was downloaded directly from source to me. When I had people coming to me in desperation, asking for my help because they knew that they had entities and they didn't know how to be rid of them. So, I'm just a conduit for the teaching. But what I love about it is we are at a time where we all have to take personal responsibility if we're going to thrive through what's happening to all of us. And that means at a spiritual level, making spiritual choices to choose a certain level lifestyle, to make time out from your day to take care of yourself spiritually, whether that's meditation, quiet time in nature, to understand that there is an implant agenda and that you can free yourself from that prison, but you have to get them out, and then you have to work to keep them out. We were all born with implants. Anyone who is out there who has not had an implant removal has implants. And even those that have had implant removals from others, if they didn't learn how to remove them themselves, they have implants again. And so this is just general housekeeping that we all have to be aware of and do. And then, also make personal choices, like, for example, not watch television, programming. There's a reason they call it, television programming. They're telescoping through your vision, programming into your brain. That's what television is for. They even named it. They've got to put everything out there so you know what's going on. They have to let you know. It's part of universal law. And so, you get rid of your TV. You get into nature more. You decide not to spend as much time with toxic people in your life that can't honor you and respect you, so that you can keep your vibration high. All of these things are going to help you. And we can talk more about specific solutions, but I do want to touch that. We're in a time now where all of us have to decide, are we going to take sovereign personal responsibility for our choices, or are we going to allow ourselves to be dependent on a system that now we know, even if we didn't before, now we know, because all the information is out there, that we are being compromised on a daily basis, and it's up to us. No one's going to come in and save us. We do have positive beings around. I can talk about that later, and they are interfacing with us. But each of us came here to experience this and do it on our own. And the humanity as a whole has to sort of start to rise up and decide, we're done with this. If everybody on this planet woke up tomorrow, and we don't need to even everybody, but the mass majority said, we're done with the political system, we're done with this governance, we're done with these ETs, off our planet, we want to take our organic timeline and plan it back, we would do it in an instant. That's how strong we are. But people are allowing themselves to be victims, and they're allowing themselves to go along with an agenda that deep, deep, deep in their DNA and soul isn't right. They can feel it, but they feel helpless. They're not quite sure what to do about it, which is why I thought it important to talk about some of these things today.
Absolutely. So how would someone know that they were being negatively affected by technology in general, or in interfacing with their etheric implants?
Well, for one thing, if they have implants and they're aware they have implants, what inevitably always happens with my clients to a person is we book the session, and just by booking the session, they've sent a signal to the implants, you guys are going to be out of here soon. And the implants will literally start running around their bodies. They can feel them, or their phone will break, or their boyfriend will pick a fight with them, or whatever it might be. But it's really the entities within them in the etheric level acting up because they know they're close to being gone for good. And so that would be one way. If you know you have implants, you can feel them in your body, they will act up. Once they're out, and they're gone for good. That doesn't mean new ones won't try to come in. And so that's why I want to make people sovereign by teaching them the tools so that they can do this on a daily basis for themselves. It's got to be like showering or brushing your teeth. And that,
So, and I'm excited because we have a plan to have a series of a course or webinars with you and support groups. And I also, with my Shadow Genesis work, work in connection with helping bridge the blind spots so that people can understand what their shadows are, because it seems that these things attach to our woundedness, to our reactivity, to our places where we've gotten into limiting beliefs of lack and limitation and worthlessness, where we're full of anger, jealousy, envy, greed, lust, all of these things that can rob us of our integrity and of our ability to live kind and compassionate and humane lives. the nasty side of us gets emboldened, I think, with these implants. I mean, if they push on all of the parts of us that, shall we say, need improving, and drive it into field. For example, and I've noticed this many times, that something can make somebody angry, but sometimes somebody will just feel just full of rage, and they will go off in a way that they've even said later, that didn't even feel like me. I don't even know where that came from. But they can only push the part of our psychological structure that we have not gained mastery of. These weaknesses in our character, let's put it that way, or our reptilian DNA, the places in us that are cold-blooded, that are competitive, that are cruel, that are heartless, that are selfish, that are fear-motivated, that are, survival of the fittest, all this stuff that we have, this ancient, would you agree that these are the kinds of areas that these implants seem to stimulate?
Well, sure, because they feed on the lower vibration. I mean, that's their food. And so what they'll do is they'll lock up the body systems, particularly put an implant around a specific trauma, and then feed on that. And in fact, sort of light a fire under it from here, through circumstances time and time again, so that it's completely replenished so they can keep feeding on it. So for example, let's say somebody had some sort of abuse in their life when they were a small child, emotional abuse, for example. That person may notice that they're continually set up with other emotional abusers. Now, psychology might tell you that, well, you're attracting that, and you need to heal yourself. And to some degree, that may be true.
Hello?
Are you there?
Yes, but now we're getting on a roll, so got a little interference, but we're good.
Okay, good. Well, what I started to say is, yes, they may come in and feed on the negative, a dark spot. So I was using the example of a woman, say, or a man who had been emotionally abused as a child. The next thing you know, they're attracting emotional abusers. Now, a psychologist might say, well, that person needs inner child healing or trauma healing in order to stop attracting that into their life. And that is one facet of it. But the other facet of it is these dark beings, these etheric beings, will orchestrate that to make sure that you are set up. They'll have the implants go off in someone who is an abuser, and that person will be manipulated into coming into your life. And that's what a lot of what I call the New Age community, which I don't ascribe to, but I'm more spiritual. I have a direct connection to source, but not the New Age community. They feel that you must be attracting this. You create everything. Yes, we are co-creators, and we do create a lot, but we do not create everything. That is false. And so some of it comes because some other co-creator is being manipulated, and they're forcing themselves into our game. So what we have to do is awaken, like you had just described, those shadow parts of ourselves, so we know what they are, we know where our weaknesses are, and heal them to the best of our ability, but also understand that we've got entities that are tweaking those every day to try to get those to go off in us.
Well, this is so interesting, Lynn, because I have worked with a number of people, been in the psychology area for over 40 years. And I've always wondered why some people will do the work and get healed and move into a healthier geist in their lives, and other people will work their butts to the bone, and they still just get triggered, and they can't ever seem to pull themselves out of it.
Well, addiction is a big program through these etheric implants. I literally have had clients where as we pulled out an implant, that client said to me, I feel my addiction to cigarette smoking disappearing. I really feel I can stop now. Like the whole craving has disappeared, or sexual addiction or whatever, food or whatever the addiction might be. Addictions are a big one for these etheric implants because addictions cause us pain. nobody out there, no matter what they're addicted to, is happy. You know, even a sex addict, you know, people might think, oh, well, no, trust me. I have dealt with a number of sex addicts. They are not happy campers. It's horrible for them. And so that's something within them that has taken over, that is now driving them to do things that they really don't want to be doing. And that's why I believe a lot of people can go to these addiction programs to heal. And they may, like you just said, they may look at their inner child. They may do trauma work. They may have a new lease in life. They get out, and the next thing you know, they're drinking or drugging or whatever it is they're doing all over again. I don't believe that's them. I believe that's the implants taking over them again.
And that's a very encouraging thing to understand, because it can be so disheartening, depressing, and some people even get suicidal when they've worked so hard, so many ways to try to get better, and they just can't get better. And people, you know, look at you kind of a wink sideways, like, oh, she's just addicted to her pain. Oh, you know, it's your fault. You say you want to get better, but obviously you don't. And of course, there are those things where we are addicted to our pain and we are addicted to our negativity, and we're frightened to remove these things. But it seems that it's just, there's other factors impacting humanity, massive factors. This is why I stopped doing just straight on shadow work. Once I realized the level of interference humanity is suffering, I went, you know what? I just can't work with one more person and hold the thought that this is all your stuff that we're working through. It's just not even fair. It's so demoralizing. But if you can actually help somebody move this gunk out of there, they have the space, then they can address these issues, and they have a fighting chance to get beyond all of this stuff.
Well, and we have other layers that we deal with. I do timeline work with clients where we go back and cut a quarter contracts and cords, because this can also be a multi-generational problem, where, you know, you've had a great ancestor that made a pact with a dark being, and that comes down through our lineage, and that needs to be addressed as well. You know, this is, as you know, listeners will hear, this is a multi-pronged octopus. Okay, there's the implant tentacle, and then there's the smart grid tentacle, and then there's the pharmaceutical tentacle, and there's the Skype and telephone and TV tentacle. I mean, the point is they're hitting us with everything, but it's a multi-tentacled octopus, and there is no just one solution. So what we need to do is bring out, what are the tentacles we're dealing with here? And then what are the ways that we can offset the impact of as many of those as we can and get our own co-creative abilities back? So that's what I work on with people every day. And for me, implant removal is a big one, because I have noticed that when we get the implants out, I would say, if I were to hazard a guess, you know, people's lives, change overnight. I've had clients come back to me and say, Lynn, you put me in a whole different reality. Like I wasn't in that reality before implant removal. I don't know where I am now, but it's magical and I love it. So to me, that's a big one, which is why I'm really blessed to be able to work in that field, because it has such a big impact for people, but it's only one of many things that we need to look at.
Yes, that's right. That's why it's a education, and they're multifaceted education. But what else is there to do that's of any sustainable or lasting value? And if we don't do that, we are going to be so impacted by these things. And if we are foolhardy enough to think we're just going to plow through without developing any skill set to actually address the reality of what we're under, then I think that we're being very foolish.
Well, some souls, it's been told to me, and I'll announce publicly on the radio, I'm actually having personal interactions with the Sasquatch people, and people may laugh at that, but, they'll believe in aliens or they'll believe in angels. Well, guess what? The Sasquatch are an ET group of beings that came to Mother Earth many millions of years ago, and they are an original people. And so they're teaching me a lot. They're interdimensional, they're telepathic, they can bilocate, they have they can actually put voices in your head to talk to you, have a conversation in your head, not like you're crazy, but just kind of a form of telepathy. And as I've interacted with these beings, they've all said the same thing. And that is that we're at the great shift point, and that for the most part, the souls have made their decisions. Either they're going to wake up, and particularly in this time when there's so much knowledge everywhere, and because deep in their hearts, I know people can feel it, and they're either going to choose to go back into the matrix and sort of participate, worry about what Trump or Hillary is doing, or they're going to have an awakening and get the bigger picture, stand outside of that and say, oh, that's just another distraction tool. I'm not going to participate. Let me go over here and participate with nature, or do something that's going to help me overcome what they're doing. And those choice points, for the most part, have been made. So when I look at my work today, to be honest, Sienna, I'm past the point of, quote, thinking that I can save anyone. I did have that. I think many healers have that idea, that we hope that we can, whatever we're doing will really, really help them. I'm to the point now where I think people have made their choice, and now it's just how many want to step up into the sovereignty and to take the steps that they need to take going forward until the end.
Exactly. And, I've studied so many things, and I'm a writer, and I'm a thiser, and I'm a thater. And at the end of the day, I have come to want to simply, in that beautiful, aligned with our mother planet, hold a co-creative space for people to discover their own sovereign connect to all of this. And the fact is, if I get out of the way, just create a container, not a structure, not an imposition. Now, you've got to do this in this way, and this is the great new technique. But just create a container where truth can emerge. What's happening is people are the ones who have made that choice, as you said. They're just coming back online on the organic timeline. Their capabilities, their sixth senses are developing, their recall of other lives and other timelines, their ability to open up and access direct love, and their creativity. This is one of the most fulfilling, exciting, divinely blissful times I have ever recall experiencing, with all the pain and imposition, because people are just popping like popcorn if they're not messed with, even by healers, even by, great, brilliant minds that have it all figured out how to do this. The thing I resonate with you and Rise resonates with is simple tools, and let people do it themselves, and be quiet and listen as the truth emerges in the people who are ready for this. It's very, very exciting and beautiful to watch and experience, as I'm sure you must feel when you do these implant removals and the other work you're doing with people.
Well, I have many, many shamanic, Lemurian, and organic timeline lifetimes. So, a lot of what emerges through me is just many, many lifetimes of doing this work. And when you look at nature, everything is simple. Everything is simple. And this is why they've co-opted the organic medicine we have all over this planet. People go to the jungles of South America to work with shaman. Why? Because they've tried every Western pharmaceutical drug for their this, that, or the other, and it hasn't worked. And yet there's plant medicine out there that'll heal you in a few days. And so, yeah, that's what I like to work with, is simple. In fact, when somebody puts together this agenda that is really, really complicated, I have to question it, because I don't believe anything's that complicated. When I do my protection with people, I do a simple golden egg around them. That's all they need. But I do it 3 times, because 3 is the Holy Trinity number, and it's a very protective number. And so, yes, I do, recommend people put the golden egg around them 3 times, but they don't need to build all this armor and pieces of golden egg and all that. No, an egg is one of the most simplified things in nature, and it works. And so I take a lot of what I do directly from nature, and I find that the simpler I work my life personally and interact it with nature, the smoother everything in my life goes. Now, I'm not saying I don't get interference, because believe me, I do. I've been gang stalked. I have black helicopters over my house on a daily basis. My landlord's implants just went off, and now I'm in the process of having to move. I deal with a lot doing this work, but the way I balance myself is I've decided to be sovereign, and I've decided to make the best possible choices I can make, and it's working.
And it's so interesting that it's a very subtle thing, this whole fear of helping people or healing or, being a facilitator, a counselor, a coach. It's a very subtle thing. You can hand people enough tools to bury themselves in templates that are imposing, even if it's just a wonderful structure. It's imposition on top of. And what needs to happen is we need to turn inside out. What is really within us needs to manifest. And this is what we haven't. In the patriarchy, we have not been given the right to speak your own truth. We were conditioned to say there's an authority figure, there's a God, there's a father, there's a government, there's your parents, there's the church, and they know better than you. And if you're going to be a good member of society, you're going to obey. And this is just that place. Now, if you've lived that many years, it's scary to think, well, who am I? Where's my operating system? How am I going to do this without all these impositions that have made me feel safe?
Well, exactly. And that's exactly why we went through the Industrial Revolution, and they moved everybody off the farm into cities, because they started to disconnect them from a family, from their roots, from the land. And now, people are dependent on the system to survive. And under the auspices of you'll make a lot more money, which pulled a lot of the younger generation off the farm into the cities, it also made them completely dependent on what their boss felt that day. If the boss, they better go get another job. And so, yes, in just 150 years, people have become completely disconnected from the rhythms of nature, from understanding what this planet's really about, from connection with the land. And that was all by design, of course. So people then have to make a decision to reverse that and go back to the land. And it's not going back in time. Another program out there is technology is modern. Technology is where we want to go. No, it isn't, people. No, it isn't. What the indigenous people, the way they lived for millions of years on this planet, is by being in rhythm with Mother Nature, being in rhythm and connection to Source, being able to read the animal kingdom and interact with that in harmony. That's how those people survived. And look at us. I mean, if the supermarkets closed down for more than 3 days, people would be in an absolute panic and start starving. They have no idea how to take care of themselves. So, but that has to come with a choice, because now the information is out there. Even if they don't want to face it, even if there's cognitive dissonance going on, they still have to make a choice, burying their heads in the sand and saying, I don't want to look at this because it's scary and it feels bad. Well, they can choose not to, but there's going to be a consequence for that. And those of us that are willing to look at it, is as hard as it is to live through and look at, are realizing that we can actually get sovereign powers back, and that we can actually defeat a lot of what's happening to us. So the choice, we're at a choice point. The Hopi talked about the choice point. Many, many indigenous peoples did. But, there is the Hopi rock, where they literally have two paths. They've got the lower path and the upper path. And this was apparently, put on this rock very, very long time ago. And, are you going to choose the lower path, which is to stay in the matrix, which is going to be dependent upon the system for your survival and for your thoughts? Or are you going to step away from that and start to take the higher path, even though it's a path into the unknown initially? It's the only path that will free you from this. And that's got to be everybody's sovereign choice.
And it's interesting that these archons, to use John Lash's word, or aliens, or everyone has a different take on what it all is, but they all seem to agree on one thing. And that is that this is an inorganic life form that needs to parasite off of us, that our connection to source is their survival. So we are so much more powerful, and they've made sure that we think we are worthless and so much less. And I wanted to weave that into, there's a lot of false light alien agendas out there also, that a lot of people are, see the light and when they die, and or that the ETs are going to save us, and all of this kind of stuff, pretty much feeding that thought form that we are so screwed up, we destroyed our environment, we are full of hatred, the human race is so horrible, well, we're disgusting, we are the biggest predator on the planet, we can't do anything right, so this diminished sense of who we are, another complete and bogus fabrication and lie, because we have the source code to turn ourselves inside out and have direct access to source. And literally, if we stop giving them our energy, they'll have to go find someone else to feed off of.
Yes. Many of them will just perish. It's like a mosquito that can't bite you and take your blood, or a leech. They'll perish. And they know that. And so they're interacting with the humans on this planet that are in decision-making positions to be able to affect this planet. And they're giving us everything they have. They're throwing everything at us right now. They have to, because they're literally fighting for their lives, and they know it. I do have in some of my implant removal sessions where clients see that, when they find a being, let's say, whether it's a reptilian or a mantid or a gray, they literally will step forth and say, please take me. Please take me. I'm so tired of this incarnation.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this anymore. And they willingly go. And so, we're at a point where we all are able to be on a different timeline. We're going to shift. And it's going to be a vibrational shift. I don't believe it's all about the planet splitting. I think it's a vibrational shift, and we're going to go to where we are vibrationally. And whether, people want to call high vibrational spiritual people going to the new earth, I don't think it's a single timeline, number one. And number two, I just think it's a frequency. Everything else in this universe is based on that. And so the more that we can raise our frequency, the more we move out of range of a lot of these technologies I was telling you about, because the technologies also feed on lower vibration.
So then if you were going to give somebody some tips on how they can protect themselves against the technological agenda, I know you have mentioned a number of things already. Is there anything else before we move on that you would want to share of how people can protect themselves?
Well, yes, and some of these may sound a little mundane, but they're really, really important. So yes, I'd like to go over them. Number one, spiritual practice. And what do I mean by that? You have to disconnect from all this technology, and you have to connect with nature, connect with yourself through inner work, shadow work, inner child healing work, as well as connecting through meditation. And what will happen is you will naturally start to access these other realms. You will start to see things you've never seen before, just by staying true to that. But then other things, move away from the Gwen Towers. I'm moving, and at first I was a little bit concerned because my landlord was making me move, and I was like, why? I've been here for 3 years. I'm a happy tenant. But do you know what I just found out is they're going to upgrade the Gwen Towers, which are half a mile from my home, to even higher frequency. And I said, maybe this is a gift in disguise, because my body is so sensitive, I can't be around those towers. And by the way, the frequencies coming off those towers does drop off pretty significantly the further away you get. So get away from power lines and Gwen Towers. Remove the smart meters from your home. Get as much technology out of your house as you can tolerate. And then even if you have it in your home, don't sleep with your cell phone next to your bed. Your biochemistry is being messed with all night long. Put the cell phone in another room. You'll live until tomorrow. unless you're in a situation where you may get that call in 3 a.m, put it in another room. Getting rid of all of the technology, eliminating the toxic relationships. You have to understand that if they can't get to you because you're sovereign and you're getting your own implants out, they will definitely try to get to the people around you, to pick fights with you, to cause some sort of distress in your life. And that, again, part of being sovereign is making the choice, look, I will talk with you and try to work this out. And if you keep doing this and mistreating me, you've got to go. And you've got to make those decisions. Drinking, I know this sounds silly, but drinking tons of water and getting enough sleep. Our body is, mostly water. And when we have a lot of water in our bodies, we actually, the technology in these implants don't work as well. They just can't. Have you ever noticed, like, if you're hungover, you get a splitting headache? Well, that's dehydration, and your body can't work well, right? So it starts to be in pain. Well, what I've noticed is when you really take care of your body, drink a lot of water, get enough sleep, you've got some natural defenses that help keep these things at bay a little more. So definitely do that. Say no to prescription drugs and doctors as much as possible. I stopped going to doctors 6 years ago. I haven't even had a cold. Prior to that, I was in the doctor for this, that, and the other every other year. And so the same with pets. I've noticed my clients, when they have pets, if they stop taking them to the vets and getting all those vaccines, their pets are a lot healthier as well. Declutter your home and your life. When we simplify our lives, we get back on the organic timeline. And you can't do that when you've got a house full of stuff. When you can't, because every time you look around your home, your brain is registering all those little tchotchkes, all that stuff all over your house. And that's why they have those shows on TV where you go into a hoarder's house and it's like, oh my God, how does she live there? And then at the end, it's all nice and neat and simplified. And everybody on watching the show kind of goes, oh, that looks better. Yeah, that's because our mind has less to have to keep track of. And so that allows us more energy to focus on the things that we actually do need to focus on. Grounding in nature, getting involved with the elemental kingdom, the Fae kingdom, the Sasquatch people, all of those entities are real, and they're right next over in the veil waiting to interact with us. You cannot connect with them when you've got technology between you and them. It just can't happen. So the more you can ground and be in nature and live a very simplified life, the more you will just naturally evolve. And I want to say something. I've never said this on another show, but it's really true. You don't need anybody taking out your chakras. You don't need anybody upgrading your DNA. We are organic beings going through a time that has been prophesized for millions of years. Everything will happen organically. All we have to do is allow and support our bodies, and it will just happen. We don't need other people climbing into our bodies, upgrading us and doing this. And that's what I teach in my implant removal. I'm not upgrading anyone. I'm not taking out chakras. I'm not doing anything to them. I'm basically just giving them a tool so that they can clean themselves on a daily basis.
Wow, that was really cool. I love hearing that because we just don't get enough of it. So let's look a little bit at your entity and implant removal process. In terms of, now the people come and they have a session with you, I believe, but they only need one session with you. Is that correct? What happens after that session?
Yeah. So typically now this is really interesting. We talk about how everything is being thrown at us. Just a few months ago, my average session was 2 hours. And then it was almost like the next week, it went up to 3 hours. And so now almost to a person, my sessions are 3 hours. And to me, that's just an example of how they're throwing everything and the kitchen sink at people. And so it's taking longer to clean them. So what I do in a session is I do not connect my field to anyone. That keeps me safe and that keeps them safe. I basically put them through a pre-assessment to make sure that their gifts are open to the degree that's needed to get these out. If somebody's never heard about these agendas and they know nothing about ETs, nothing about reptilians, or then they're really not ready to do implant removal because they don't even understand it. So then I just give them things to study and say, look, go out and get smart about this and come back to me when you're sure you want to do it. And so after I put them through a pre-assessment and we set up the session, then either over Skype or telephone call, I basically talk them through, like their guide and teacher, to say, this is what you need to look for. Oh, you've got this obstacle. Here are the tools you need to get over that. Because having worked with 160 people now, I've seen just about everything there is to see. It is evolving still. They are throwing new things at people, but generally the way that they deal with each of us is the same. They don't invent and customize things per person. They pretty much hit people the same way in the same places. And so I've been able to see that, and then I can help people say, oh, yes, I've seen that before. This is, what you need to do. But I let the client see it, and I think that's really crucial. I don't tell my client what to see. I let them go and look at it for themselves. And then they get to feel what it feels like when they get these things out, and it's instant relief. Instant relief. They can feel it, and that's the proof they need. I just saw it, and I just pulled it out, and I can feel the difference in my body. And so at the end of the session, their aches and pains are gone. A lot of times their diseases are gone, depending on what the diseases are. And they can think clearly. Their thoughts are their own. They have quiet space between the thoughts. They're not in these looping thoughts. And then if they keep doing this, that'll be the way they are every single day. But it is up to them to keep, cleaning themselves.
But now when they have to do it every day, it gets easier and easier and quicker from my experience. Is that true?
Oh, absolutely. Well, the first session, the reason it takes so long is because most of the people that come to me have never had an implant removal, and it takes 3 hours because they're cleaning out a lifetime's worth of attachments and entities and things. And like I said, I don't set the time. My clients do. I walk them through the protocol, and they are the ones that are filling up the 3 hours. So I don't make it a session of 3 hours. They do, because that's how much stuff is in them. Once they get them out, many of my clients will be reattacked. Particularly if they have a big mission on this planet, if they came here to do some big things, they may get a couple of weeks of pretty strong reattacks. But what it'll feel like is like something is coming in from the outside as opposed to running you from inside. And so, and as long as they do the protection and the implant removal, I'm not saying it's easy. Sometimes you do have to kind of fight, but these entities, they're using a lot of energy to come in from the etheric and try to get back into you. So it doesn't last that long. So I coach them and provide ample support. I tell all my clients, look, I'm not dropping you on your head after implant removal. If you need me, email me, call me. I'm always accessible to my clients. That if you can get these things over the first week or two, they get the idea, okay, if I come into this person, they're going to destroy me. I'm going to go find somebody else. And then for most people, it does sort of drop off a cliff, and then it's just maintenance. And I'm to a point now where I clean about every 3 weeks. Doesn't mean I don't have some Klingons, but they don't really bother me, and I don't really feel them much. So I do a deep cleaning every 3 weeks. And that may be how a lot of my clients end up being after they've done it for a while.
Beautiful. So one session, and then you can do this on your own. And the more you do it, the less you need to do it. That's pretty direct and to the point.
Well, it's like I'm the dentist, and it'd be like going to the dentist and having a deep cleaning on your teeth, right? And then you go home and you never brush or floss for a month. Well, what do you think you're going to look like again? You've given, time for all of that to take over. And it's the same with implant removal. Unfortunately, we live in a parasite infested world, and we do have to do some general housekeeping. And like we do, we bathe daily and we brush daily and all of that. And so, yes, if you do that, you get your life back in many, many ways. And then you also get the clarity to be able to make better decisions because you see more clearly what's going on in the matrix. You connect the dots faster. Your mind processes faster. Your body works better. You sleep better. Relationships usually.
Hello?
Oh, did I cut out again?
It's my internet. We just lost 3 words. We heard everything but the last 3 words.
I don't know what I was saying. Half of what I say is a download, so I lose it if I don't know.
I really think that we understood pretty well that thought.
Yeah. So just keep what I tell my clients, and you'll stay on top of it. But then also make these other decisions. I mean, if somebody gets their implants out and then they choose to smoke pot every day or do DMT or other drugs, I'm sorry, they're opening themselves up for bigger interference than they may even be able to be aware of. And so, you do have to make some smart decisions as well. And that gets back to this whole sovereignty issue and choice issue. We're at a choice point, and people have to decide, am I going to step into my sovereign, co-creative powers, or am I just going to finish out this lifetime going along for the ride?
Well said. Lynn, you have an upcoming class through Rise Multiversity, and you're going to be teaching graduates of the implant removal how to expand their skills into other areas of healing. Can you share with us what's going to be taught in that class and what prerequisites are involved?
Well, I know you and I, Sienna, talked about possibly a number of classes, and I know we're still working that part out. But the areas. So what I started to discover is this implant removal process was starting to be applicable to many other areas. I was using the same techniques as an animal healer to pull implants out of animals. But then I also was able to pull out disease in animals the same way. And the same with working with, say, children that we can't teach, they're too young, we can't teach this to. Their parents can use these same techniques to do implant removal for their children, how to remove portals from their home, also keeping themselves free of disease, basically pulling out these implants as if they were a disease, pulling out disease as if it were an implant, as well as then using what I'd love to see is a vision of a number of people that have been through this process and know how to do this, joining together in a support group hosted by Rise, where we can come together and do some interplanetary healing.
Yes, I'm very excited to do these kinds of things because we have these capabilities and they're coming online, and we certainly need to take the energy out of all of this attack from this grid. Now, I've noticed on Facebook that you have mentioned that there's ways of cleaning up the chemtrails by contacting some air beings. Am I getting that right?
Oh, yeah, the sylphs.
Can you share a little bit about that? I think that that's very helpful.
Well, a lot of people haven't heard of the sylphs. It's spelled SYLPH, and you can Google them, all about them. They're elemental beings. And for a lot of people, if you see them in the sky, they look like very feathery, very etheric looking clouds. They may be in the shapes of dragons or birds or beings. And they actually are elemental beings, just like, there's angels and ETs and, all the other things people are willing to believe. Well, the elemental kingdom has a number of these types of beings that are interdimensional as well. And so you can call to them. But again, it's a frequency match. I still have people today, I'll talk to them in the supermarket and say, have you noticed that that's a chemtrail and that it stays in the sky all day? And they don't even notice. They're not at a frequency where they can even match up to the fact that that's a chemtrail and not a contrail. Mm-hmm. So from that conversation, I can't take them on to, well, let's talk about calling in the sylphs, right? Because you have to have a frequency connection. And it's the same with Sasquatch. It's the same with the Fae realm. If you aren't of a certain level of consciousness, you can't connect with these higher frequency beings, or they will choose not to connect with you, which is another plus about, getting your implants out and making the proper choices in your life to raise your consciousness and live a very clean, simple life, is it sounds boring, I guess, to someone in the 3D who says, well, what would I do without television and my technology? I don't know. When you get to live in my world, there's magic every single day, and you find it every single day. The Sasquatch people show up in my house and leave me gifts. Feathers will drop from midair, marbles will drop, they'll materialize in your living room. I mean, it's really amazing what you can start to co-create with these beings, but you can't access that realm before leaving the other realm, which is what technology is trying to lock down.
Okay, so Lynn, we're just about out of time today. There's just a couple more things. So these groups that you're going to be running, the protocol is that they need to contact you for a session before they're into this group, because these are for graduates who are actually taking these things out of themselves, doing this, made that commitment, and now they're expanding to pets, to children, to portals, to disease, to healing the planet.
Yes.
Yeah. So first they would contact you. And how will they contact you? Now, I know if you go to risemultiversity.org, click on the mentors, the drop-down list will click on Lynn Williams, and all your details are there. But how would they contact you for a session in the best possible way, Lynn?
I actually screen the clients that come to me, and the reason I do that is, unfortunately, I get a lot of trolls. So the best way, I think, is to private message me on Facebook, and that is lynn.williams.129. That's my address there. Or they can email me directly at lwilliams2002@verizon.net. And then what I normally do is I ask for certain levels of disclosure just to make sure I'm dealing with someone who, it really wants to do this work and isn't there to sort of mess up my life. So
Yes. And so if people are interested in the class now, I regret to say, due to work overload, we have not put the class up. It's not open to go right now, although it may be as people listen to this. But perhaps they can just contact you directly and get their implants out with you. Or if they've already done that, and I know hundreds of people have, then perhaps you could take a wait list, or they can get on our email list, so that when this class rolls out, we have a way to get back to them. It should be
absolutely.
It's not quite there yet.
Yeah. No, you and I, Sienna, will work on that aspect of it. But yes, absolutely. And so this is really an opportunity, because a lot of the people that have gone through my teaching, as you know, are with Rise, or they're people that have been recommended through your members at Rise, as well as other private clients I've dealt with. But yeah, it's an opportunity for a very low cost, relatively speaking, to really expand your skills into other areas that could really help your family and humanity. And so, yeah, I'm very excited about that. But the way I teach implant removal is, again, unique. And I don't just say that because I know it was downloaded from source and a sort of special transmission for me, but because that's the feedback I get from my clients. They tell me, I've been to other implant removals. It was not like this. And so I do want them to go through my session, because I also impart codes in my speaking voice. I activate people. And so an activation also takes place. And I think that, so I'd like people to go through that first, so that they have the right skill set coming into the classwork.
Yeah, this is going to be a very amazing class. And it's going to be a course that springboards into support group, where you will be with other awakening, like-hearted souls, and step into all other areas. But you're going to get support. You're going to share ideas. You're going to be working for planetary healing with a group of people that have taken some steps, so that this isn't the beginning class. This is more of an intermediate and advanced spiral for people who are really ready to take this where it needs to go, which I am absolutely thrilled and honored to hold space for and support and promote, because the more of us that can become conscious co-creators with our mother planet and can move out of hell and start manifesting our potential for really paradise. The waves coming in now, these amazing waves are full of bliss and higher vibrational, clear, everything connect, and waves of truth and beauty and love. I mean, what's opening up now is unprecedented on this planet. Maybe way back in the beginning, when the original humans were there in the beautiful state. But we're returning to that, and the people are, I spend a good part of my day in that state nowadays, and I know other people are as well who are doing this work. So it's just very, very exciting to be able to have this choice. And I agree with you 110%. We are at the turn in the road. We are at the cross point. We are at the Kali Yuga. And it's all ashore that's going ashore, and you have a choice, and no one's going to make it for you. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, people say it's two earths splitting. You could say it's simultaneous realities, and it's all going to depend on what we choose for ourselves. So I love that getting these implants out is becoming such a simple thing with your work, because I mean, I've studied this from numbers of angles since I was 16 years old. And it's very murky territory, in my opinion.
Well, and the other benefit to more and more people waking up to this is we're going to create a 100 monkey effect, where people will just know how to deal with these implants again. I mean, we did, in ancient times, people knew about this. It wasn't a secret, and they knew how to deal with it more. We've been bamboozled into thinking that, well, we're not who we think we are. And so, yes, there's a lot of advantages to getting this work out, putting it on the internet, dealing with as many people as we can, because there will be a tipping point. And then, I'll find something else to help humanity get to the next stage. And that's why I wanted this class, because there's a lot of beginner classes for people awakening. But there's not a lot of advanced work. I know a few people out there that are doing amazing advanced classes, and that's what we need. We need to take it up to that level, because we are in a spiritual war right now. We want to be able to fight, and I hate to use the word fight, excuse me. We want to be, we want to have the abilities where we can be at a level to address what's coming at us from the level that they're addressing it to us.
Exactly. So beautifully and clearly stated. So I think that we're pretty well done, unless there's something, any final point or information that you wish to share before we finish here today, Lynn.
Oh, no, I just want to thank you, Sienna, for, again, for giving me this opportunity to chat with you today and talk about a subject that, can be slightly controversial, but the more we're armed with knowledge, the more powerful we'll all be.
Well, it's so true, and it's so funny. We put out these podcasts, and I must say the one that I did, predicting the end of the world, got the most hits of any podcast I ever do. But then when we put out, okay, here's the real solution to free yourself from the kind of imprisonment that you've endured all your life, and so it's going to be curious to me. I hope we spread this far and wide. I hope we start getting into solution-based. I hope we can snap ourselves out of the trance into getting into action for the benefit of ourselves, our mother planet, and the whole of life. It's time for action. It really is.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you, Sienna.
All right, everyone. Be well. Good night.